An adaptation I've always been interested in is when players change the position of the hands on the golf club. So going from, let's say, a standard grip where the lead hand is above the trail hand to now placing the trail hand above the lead. And we've seen it in putting over the last many years, referred to as cack-handed by some individuals. And now we've seen it become a little bit more prevalent in chipping with players like Matthew Fitzpatrick. But besides the maybe refreshing, different perspective, different feels, what actually changes from a technical perspective when we're looking at movement? So we've wrapped it in basically a local player. Very, very good short game, very elite player. We got them to hit 5 shots with a standard grip and 5 shots with this reverse grip or cack-handed grip. This is done indoors on a mat with a 60-degree wedge. So when we're looking at it, we've got 2 values we're going to look at. Number 1 is the arc width. That's the distance between the mid-hands point and the middle of the chest of the player. The second one we're going to look at is the trail shoulder, SH is shoulder. And we're looking at the AB, which is abduction, and the AD, which is adduction. Now, when we're looking at the trail shoulder, the upper arm, let's say, that's what we're really focusing on. What does AB, abduction, really mean? Well, that would mean that this upper arm moves further away from the midpoint of the golfer. So AB meaning more away from the midline. Now, if we got that same golfer and we ask them to get them that forearm to move more in towards the chest, that would be AD or adduction. So when the player moves more, that segment, whatever segment we're looking for, more in towards their center line, that would be adduction or adding towards the center line. So let's get going and have a little look at this player. So we got the player on the left-hand side with a standard grip, same player on the right-hand side with a reverse grip. So let's have a look at a couple of these values. So we're going to look at the arc width. Now as we go into this backswing position, this backswing is going to get a little longer than what we're going to see over on the right-hand side, but we do see a narrowing of that arc width. So as that trail arm starts to fall behind the player, we see that hand get a little closer. The arc width goes down to about 80 centimeters. We started off with 94. Now this player, because they're pretty good at what they do, they have functional variability, which means they return that club to about 94 again at impact. But there is definitely a change. Now the idea of this video is not to promote one or the other or say this is better or this is worse. It's just really observing the changes and how they affect. And it's important to note that this player was not asked to do anything differently. We simply changed the position of the hands on the golf club, go hit 5 chip shots as you would. So the other thing we're looking at is that trail shoulder movement. So we start off with 5.7, let's say 6 degrees adducted, meaning the upper part of this forearm is pushed in about 6 degrees towards the center line. Now as this player starts to go back, we're going to see that number spike a little bit. That's simply the rib cage starting to turn back before the arm has started moving. So we'll only get a difference in this reading when the rib cage and the forearm or the upper arm move in different ways. If they both move together, this number will not change. So as we go back, we have a slight change. As we keep going, when both start to move together, there's very little change. And now we start seeing that number adjust. So now that upper arm, the upper shoulder, is starting to pull more behind the player. Now we go into an abducted position. AB, meaning that segment is moving away from the center line of the player. And let's just stop there for the moment. Let's have a look at the player over on the right-hand side. We started off in similar ways. Let's have a look at the arc width. We'll go back, start off about 94 centimeters. We go into the backswing. We end up at the end of the backswing about 90. Now again, there is a difference in terms of how far the club has traveled, but that's more of an effect of the grip rather than an actual concentrated or really purposeful change. So again, we're just really just acknowledging, observing the changes that happen when we simply change one thing. So the arc width changes. It remains a little bit more constant, perhaps a little wider, one might say. What about the trail shoulder? Let's go back to the start. Again, we start off at about 6 degrees in terms of adduction, so moved in towards that center line, which was similar to what we saw over on the left-hand side. As we start back, we see that same movement of the player. We see that rib cage start to rotate into that trail forearm, that trail upper arm, that trail shoulder, therefore spiking that number. As we work our way further into that, we see more of that. So actually, the rib cage is moving a little bit more into that forearm, so that number starts to peak up a little bit. And when we get to the end of this actual swing, we really only have 1.35 adducted. So in terms of how this relationship has changed, it's really only changed by about 5 degrees. Versus again, on the left-hand side, when we look at where they are, again, 4.27 abducted. So when we look at the differences in what this player has really received, let's say, from changing the hand position on the golf club, on the grip, on the handle, the arc width over on the left-hand side from their standard one is narrower. It has changed more. The shoulder adduction and abduction. The shoulder, the upper arm section has abducted more. It is pulled away from the center line more on the left-hand swing than it has on the right-hand side. And as we work back to impact, again, we repeat those numbers that we pretty much had at address. So when you're looking at the differences, let's say, between changing the hands on the golf club for this player, this doesn't mean every single player will react the same way, just from more of an interesting perspective, that we see over on the right-hand side, the arc width has less variability. The shoulder, AB, AD has less variability than what we have over on the left-hand side. So perhaps that might be a reason, a possible reason, why we might see players who maybe perhaps are struggling with chipping, struggling with low point control, maybe go to something like we see over on the right-hand side. By placing those hands in a different position, it reduces some of the variables that we're looking at for the purpose of this video.